We're on?
We're on.
Rodney Fox, hi. This is my first time on Facebook. I'm actually not very good at computers, so I hope this comes out fine. I know you're all stuck in your homes back there and under these strange and interesting situation we're in now, so I thought I would like to tell you a few shark stories and a little bit about the Rodney Fox Shark Expeditions and how South Australia has probably got one of the places that you should put on your list, that list that of things to do from in the future. First of all, this is a little shark. See that? I don't know if you can see the wonderful teeth structure on it. I'll just hold it a little closer. This is actually a shark called let me think, can't remember now, cookie shark. It's a relation of the cookie shark, which is really a very, very small shark. Now, hi to Nadia in Germany, and this is a big shark's tooth, and it's amazing how there's such a difference in the teeth. If you have a look at those two like that, you can see how amazing these really are. Rachel Robbins is watching. That's very interesting. A little scientist lady that we know. That's great. Now, in the middle here, we've got a great white shark tooth. And of course, the great white shark was the one that the Jaws movies put in such an incredible position by frightening everybody out of the water, and I was partly responsible for that because we organised some live shark filmings for it many years ago. But just to let you know, I'm just going to sit back here and have my glass of wine, which maybe I'll save for later, and I'll try and see whether or not I can remember all those years back what started the Rodney Fox Shark Diving Expeditions. Deborah and Louise Jones, Megalon Teeth. Yes, that's right. That's a big one, isn't it? It's one of the biggest ones in the world. I'll put them away for now because I've got a lot of things to show you and to talk about. And first of all, it all started, this cage diving in South Australia, is when I won the South Australian Spearfishing Championships. In 1962, I was the South Australian champion, and in 1963, I attended the big championships down at Aldinga. And after 4 hours, I was really a bit, well, not behind, but I knew I needed a couple of really big fish. Well, we've got some interesting people talking to me. Simon DeMarchi, yeah, good to see you again, yeah. But you won't see me for long. I'm getting pretty long in the tooth, Simon. Anyway, I was diving off this in the next year's championship when a great white shark grabbed me around the chest, held me through the water. I stuck my fingers in trying to get in its eyes. It let go. I pushed it away. My hand went in its mouth and tore badly. And then I put my arms around it in a bear hug. Now you can imagine being 60 feet or 20 meters underwater holding onto the shark so it can't bite you with no air. I knew I was going to drown. But all of a sudden I realized I had to have air. I needed it. I got to go. I'm snorkeling. I went up to the surface, took a great big breath, held my breath, and looked, and I thought, there's a big shark coming towards me. Coming out of the gloom quite close, I still had these nightmares. Well, I could if I really went it was the nightmare type person, but I'm not. I actually saw this big tooth coming, this big jaw. It's a bit like this one here. This is a great white shark jaw, and it was coming straight at me like this, and it was sort of one of the frightening things that I can remember. Luckily, a miracle went my way. The shark actually took and ate a float with 3 fish on it. And as it dived, it dragged me underwater because I had ski rope tied to my belt. it dragged me underwater, and as I was spinning, I thought, I'm gone, I can't hold my breath any longer, and the line snapped. So, Malcolm Ludgate, you've done a lot of filming with us, haven't you, over the years? Yes, that's right. So, there we were, being towed underwater by a great white shark, and a miracle, another one happened. The line broke. It gave me enough adrenaline to hold on, and I got right up to the surface, and another miracle, a boat was on its way over to see what all the blood in the water was. They picked me up, raced me to shore, into a car in an old Ford Falcon. At 100 miles an hour, we raced in towards the Adelaide, into the hospital, and on the operating table. And of course, if you want to hear the rest of the story, you should buy my book. Now, I'm not going to put too many commercials in this, and I've just flattened it there because that was holding up the phone. Anyway, there I was, and so that shark attack frightened heck out of me, and my love for the sea, which I still have now, was lost and temporarily sort of affected. And I'm laying in hospital. I've got the white sheet right up to here, my arms all plastered up, and they let an ABC reporter in, and he stuck his ice cream cone under my face like this, and he said, when are you going back in the water? And I didn't know I was going to live the next day. So I was sort of said to him, trying to be polite, I don't know. I'll get in the water somewhere, sometime, but I'm not sure. Well, that was so many years ago. I hate to think how many, 50 years. I'm nearly 80 this year. And I've had the most wonderful time with sharks ever since. You cannot believe we've made over 70 films and documentaries. We've run hundreds of expeditions around South Australia. We've led National Geographic have been out here. They've seen some of our wonderful life. They came back again because our wonderful leafy sea dragons are unique and so wonderful to see. If you're a diver and you go on some of our expeditions, you'll be absolutely surprised that the beautiful cuttlefish, the Australian sea lions, and of course, not to mention, but I should and I'm going to, of course, cage diving with the great white sharks. Now, my first cage was really an interesting and strange thing because my wife and I were at the Adelaide Zoo with a niece, and we were standing out the front of the lion's cage. Now, the lions let out this imaginable roar. When they roar, it starts at their tail, and it comes all the way through, woofing up louder and louder, and it comes out to their chest and roars. And I was absolutely impressed at the ferocity and without looking at the teeth at all. And as I looked down from the cage, I saw there was water. There was a moat around the shark cage. And when I looked at that water, and I thought, that's a man-eater. That's what was in the newspaper. I was eaten by a man-eater. And they're saying that the lions are a man-eater too. And so it was really quite interesting that I thought, a cage, water, man-eaters. And I thought, if I want to get back in the water again and make up my own mind, I'll have to build a cage, and I'll have to speak to Alf Dean, the world record holder for game fishing, who knew at that time more about how to find and where to find great white sharks. So now we've got quite a few people. Michael Robbins is saying hello. John Stevens, Christine Blaine, how are you all? Red. I wonder whether there's anybody supposed to be asleep right now. I bet there's a few around the world that aren't sleeping very well with this horrible coronavirus. Let me just have a drink of water. Now, I'm going to tell you one funny thing. When I went back to work, I was working for the T&G Life Insurance Society as a superannuation salesman. And before I had to go back to work, I called in there one day to see the people that I work with. And 6 or 7 of the girls come out of the typing pool in those days, they used to keep all the girls in one room and all the boys in another room, and then another, and they have a typing pool away like this. And they all came out into the passageway and crowded around, and they said, "Oh, how are you? Are you all right? All right, yeah." And then they said, "Can we see your scars?" And of course, at that stage, they were pretty bad, and I ripped up my shirt in the air and showed them, and bing, 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 4 of them fainted. And I thought, oh no, I'm causing more trouble. Oh, I felt really bad because so many people had to work hard to save my life. Anyway, we gave them a drink of water and I went out. But that wasn't the end. My life changed forever after I had my shark attack. I remember we went to a christening, a family christening of a cousin. And the poor mum and the little baby got hardly any time at all with the guests because they were all crowding around me, asking what happened, what's it like, what's it going on. And so it was amazing. But then when I went back to work at the T&G, I was walking up the main road in the main footpath in Hindley Street, going home back to work after lunch one day, and a girl walked across and said something to me. And you know, I had 3 buttons of my shirt undone. I was going to show her my scars. And I realised she'd actually asked me the time. So things can get a little bit out of hand. But the idea for the cage came then. Alf Dean wrote me a letter in hospital, and I still have the letter here today. And it said, if you'd seen what I'd seen, you would never go back in the water again. And that really worried me because I love to dive. I only worked during the week so I could have enough money to get away on the weekends and go diving and all over the place. And so it was really a must. So I approached him. I organised the first ever expedition. We raised a lot of money from Everybody's Magazine. Actually gave us a $500 for a story in a magazine. Tip Top Bread gave us 24 loaves of bread. The local butcher gave us 20 steaks or so. And Ampol Petroleum, which is really quite good of them, gave enough fuel for a boat that I'd found who was a brand new wooden tuna boat. In those days, they had just made some new ones for poling tuna. And these guys wanted to try out their boat before the season, and they agreed to take us on it. So now we had the cage, we had a big boat, and I asked Ron Taylor, who was the underwater cameraman that I'd worked with on a couple of occasions, and we made the first ever great white shark film. And that's where it all started. People would come to me from all around the world over the next, 50 years, 50, 60, 70, no more than that, 54 years, and you know, we've never advertised except in the last few years when Andrew, now running our expeditions and showing the people exactly what they want, is running the tours. Now, the low battery is just shown on my thing. I don't know whether I got the darn power plugged in. But still, we'll go as long as we can anyway. So, there we are with our first cage. And it started at the Adelaide Zoo here. And of course, now as an abalone diver, I went back in abalone diving after my first shark attack, and I had to say to myself on several occasions when it felt a bit sharky, the sky was grey, the water was a bit dirty. And sharks don't like abalone. They only eat 6 or 7 people per year in the whole world, and if it's only, maybe I should not fear them as much. And that's what I told myself, that you just had to live with it. They don't like abalone. They don't usually like humans. And so I spent over 6,000 hours collecting abalone over the years. It was really quite interesting. Well, there's quite a lot of people flapping up on my page here. So many. I wish I could say some of them. Robert Smith there, and Minus Franchi. God knows where she's from. That's interesting. I'm a fish. She's in a horoscope too. Anyway, well, another thing I'd like to tell you about is our expeditions. Now, we are running right now. We aren't running at all. We're tied up the boat for 3 months or so, and until this horrible, well, I don't know what to call it. I was going to be rude then and swear, but this virus goes away. But what we are doing is we're planning to do some really interesting trips in the future. Now, you know, we do cage diving expeditions and have been for quite some time. We've got a lot of followers on Facebook, and Andrew's photos have been an absolute highlight, and probably I know they're the best in the world, and that's not just his father talking. Then you've got the filming expeditions. Right now there's 3 or 4 major expeditions which we haven't been able to take people out on, so some of your shark films won't be as good this year because they can't be made. Research, we work in a lot with Charlie Hooverneers at the Flinders University, and we do 4 or 5 major expeditions each year for research. Andrew, of course, out on the boat most of the time, is with his science degree, is working also on much different research, wanting to know why, how, when, what happens with all our sea life that we really have to treasure. You know, one of the things we're planning, and that's really I'm very excited about, is during my career I've visited lots of South Australian offshore islands. People don't know that we've got dozens of them up and down our coast here. And without a doubt, there's some out there that I really would like to show people too. The Neptune Islands alone, where we do our great white shark filming, has got no tin sheds, no rubbish around. It's purely nature in the raw. You can sit out there as the sun settles at night with a glass of wine, maybe if we're having a barbecue that night, and just see the little sea lions as they come home around, the seabirds as they come in and flit around the place, sea eagles. It's absolutely a treasure. And half the time there's no telephone noises, so nobody can ring you up out there. That's really one of the assets out there as well. Anyway, apart from that, we've got lots and lots of islands. There's Greenlee Island, and the one that I've been out to a couple of times, I abalone dived out there, and I also made several films out there, is Pearson Island. We're going to run a couple of Pearson Island adventures, and it doesn't really matter whether you're whether you dive or whether you snorkel or what you do out there. You should join in the future. Join a Rodney Fox Shark Expeditions, because we're really going to have a wonderful time cruising, 18 passengers on our boat. But, you know, there's another little story I'd like to tell you before I get cut off or the power runs out. And that is, I went diving in South Carolina for Megalon Teeth. Now, you saw this giant Megalon Teeth there. That's the biggest one in the world, and it's been a replica of it. But I've got one only about that much smaller. It's quite large in our collection that is doing a world tour. But these are the ones that I found, and we were in South Carolina diving in a river over there. I might add, when we drove up the river, we went there from the sea, and what happened was we passed several alligators, big alligators, on the side of this swamp that we were driving up into. And the guy who was taking us, Vito, Bertucci, that's right, Bertucci, that was his name. He actually I said to him, what happens when you see the crocodiles? Do they come at you? And he said, oh, you won't have any trouble with them. And I said to him, well, what would you do? And he said, oh, I'd just go underwater. And I often wished I had asked him, when would you come up? Because it worried me ever since then that with crocodiles coming, he did say they don't eat underwater, so I suppose when you run out of air. We went out to this sacred spot in 30 feet of water, and what happened was we dived down, and it was terrible. It was filthy dirty. there was a tide running in against it, see, but he said this was a good spot to find Megalon teeth. He was the world expert at that time. So I was in a borrowed suit. It was freezing winter, the water's pouring through it, and I'm heading down to the bottom, and he said to me, you better be a bit careful. He said, if you miss the boat, you'll get swept back a long way back up into the, and we won't be able to get you because I'll be underwater. And he said, just head over to the bank. Well, I had no intentions at all of being swept away. So as I hit the bottom down there, in the black water, I waited, but as I sat up to see where to go, it washed me over backwards. That's how much the tide was running. And I thought to myself, why do I say I'll do these stupid things? And I'm an adventurer, I think. Anyway, I started feeling in the bottom, and I thought, scratching in the bottom, you had to go in 30 feet of water, you had to find a hard bottom with soft mud, clay on the top of it, and scratch your fingers through all of the mud to try and feel something hard, like a hard underwater. And even though we had helmets on with a light in the front and a 12-volt battery on our back and double lead weights because you had to lay flat on the ground, which is really quite stupid to do this sort of thing, I just couldn't believe. And I thought, this is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And so I was scratching along like this, and I put my arm out and yuck! A giant crab! And I thought immediately of the ones we have in Adelaide here. And I imagined it was going to get me, and I was really in big trouble. And So I went backwards a fair bit, and I stopped, and I thought, don't be silly. They would have told you if there was dangerous crabs down here. Surely it's all right. Put your hand back and feel it again. And the other part of my brain said, no, don't do that. And so I didn't do it. I moved sideways. And as I got a bit further, I kept feeling. And then I felt this particular tooth. And as I held on to it, I actually could feel that it should be one, but it was a bit broken or so. And I sort of put my light on it, but it was so dirty from digging in the mud that I ended up putting it in my bag. And then I put my arm out. I found another one and another one and another one. And I went mad. I had fever. I had Meg fever. It's a bit like gold fever. And I'm going like crazy through there. And I put my arm out. Oh, a giant octopus. This side of my brain said, there's no giant octopus in the swamps out here. They're all up in Canada. You don't find any down here. This side of my brain said, it felt like a giant octopus to me. Don't be silly. They wouldn't be here. And my one brain kept fighting with the other, and I knew that I was going to be a mess. So I remember a little voice saying to me, you better find this out, Rodney, or you're going to be a mess. So I put my hand out slowly, and I found out it was the root of a tree. It was warm, slippery, and felt like it was the skin of an octopus. And, of course, I'd never felt wood underwater. In the sea, you don't have wood, so you have no idea what it's like. So I felt pretty strange and funny. We got back to the boat. I got in there, and the film crew were doing a bit of a show because I had wanted to be a diver and find my own Meg tooth. And I showed them this tooth, and the marine scientist said, yeah, they're really good. They're 10 million years old. And this area here used to have a lot of whales coming in. The big megalodon would come in and eat the whales. And then I pulled out of my bag, which was quite interesting, because I picked up all sorts of junk. Most people only pick up heart-shaped things. But I picked up a few of these big things because I had a bit of time left. And what we found on it was that it's a rib from a whale. And that there, you can see the chips in there where probably this same shark had been eating this particular whale when he knocked his teeth out. So it was fantastic. And then, I tell you, I do get into trouble at times. I put my hand in my bag and I pulled out this particular rock here, and I'm just turning it over. I thought we'd finish filming, and the American scientist there, who had a really strange accent, and I can't really imitate Americans very well. He said, "What do you got there, Rodney?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. It looks like a fossil." He said, "It's copulite." And I said, "What's copulite?" And he said, "It's shark shit. It's fossilized shark shit," which was really good. I had 3 or 4, 5 pieces. I've actually got the best collection in Australia. So it was really good. And, the good thing is, even though you've got to wash your hands all the time for the virus, you don't have to wash your hands. Doesn't even smell. It's just turned to stone and kept the right shapes. You can see some of the squeeze marks there, I think. Yeah. Anyway, that's where we are, and there's 1,000 more stories. We've made over 80 different films and different things over the years, and without a doubt, it's been an absolutely a wonderful life. And right now, our boat is taking people, not right now, but we'd like people to think about it in the future. Keep in touch with the Rodney Fox Shark Expeditions, because we certainly do have a wonderful adventure. And I can honestly tell you, of the hundreds I've had and the diving I've done, that for health reasons, deep diving, swimming, cold water, and the beauty of the underwater sea, you couldn't do a better job than do that. In the future, of course, when we get back to it all again, we'd like you to think about touring in Australia, in South Australia in particular. And if you're locals here, and we'll certainly be starting as soon as we can again. We certainly want to. We're not the people that race out on a daily basis and try and make quick money. We want to give people their money's worth, and we want to take them on adventures. And our expeditions are named as expeditions because we target things we want to see, whether it be the great whites, whether it be the sea lions, whether it be the leafy sea dragons, or the beauty of some of the offshore islands. That's what we intend to do. Whoops! I fell over, but it wasn't because I was drinking this. Here's to all your health. I certainly hope everybody listening out there today and watching is safe, and that they have no dreaded effects from this virus that's going on. And let's try and keep together and work for it. And I really would like to congratulate and to say I really appreciate all the people that are working now, the people that are still working to keep the food going, the police going, the hospitals going. Keep on it. You're doing a great job. Thanks very much for listening.